Good morning, Western Washington, and happy Monday. I'm Matthew Fab with Western Washington Weather, and today we're going to take a look at the forecast for the next few days and how Western Washington is being influenced by a very strong ridge of high pressure and how that will overall determine our partly sunny, and very dry conditions. So starting with the satellite loop right now, you can see we got some high clouds moving across Western Washington here from north to south. We could have a partly sunny day today, but we may have a thin veil of clouds. Could have some low clouds beneath this as well. So taking a look at our overall pattern here, this is a European model ensemble forecast. Here's Western Washington. You can see we just have a huge ridge dominating this area all the way through this week. So this is through Tuesday and then Wednesday, and you see it starts to break down by the time we get to Wednesday. However, there is still dominant ridging at this time. You can see this Arctic low, this Arctic polar lobe here is going to move into the Great Plains, and that barely clips part of Washington, which is going to bring us some cold temperatures this weekend, but nothing in the way of Arctic air, snow, or anything like that. You can see that polar lobe moves into the Great Plains, and then as that moves away, an even bigger ridge starts to move toward Western Washington, and that's just going to bring more of the same that we have had over the last few days here. So taking a look here at surface pressure, you can see we have very high pressure. If you have a barometer at your house, you've probably noticed how high those readings are, getting pressures of 1040 millibars, 1037 off the coast. You can see about 1037 there in the Puget Sound lowlands. And that high pressure just continues all the way through this week before we start to, you see this polar lobe move into the Great Plains there, brings in that cold air, but then that next ridge starts to build back in by the time we get to this weekend. And you can see that pressure gets pretty high again by Saturday there. So taking a look here at precipitation, and you can see there is some rain to the north of Vancouver Island there, but nothing really gets anywhere close to Western Washington until we get to about Thursday. Here you can see Wednesday night, this weak system starts to move south across Vancouver Island and then brings a tiny little bit of rain and snow to parts of Western Washington, but nothing significant at all. A few showers linger on Friday morning, and then we go back to being mostly dry by the time we get to Saturday. So very, very, very little to speak of in terms of rain coming up here. So let's take a look at temperatures. That's the one thing you're going to notice with this ridge is that temperatures are going to be on the chilly side. So here are highs today on Monday. You can see highs only reaching the low 40s across the lowlands, maybe up to the mid 40s on the coast there in the mountains in the low to mid 30s. And then as we go to Tuesday, you can see a little bit warmer highs in the low to mid 40s across Western Washington, low to mid 40s, or mid 40s just across the area there on Wednesday. Maybe some areas reaching the upper 40s, some valleys maybe in the upper 40s there. But Thursday we start to cool back down again, highs back to the low to mid 40s. By Friday we are still in the mid 40s. Saturday, then we're starting to go back to the upper 30s to low 40s, so a pretty chilly day on Saturday. And then Sunday, you can see highs in the mid 30s to low 40s across Western Washington. Similar trend there into next Monday. So the thing that we really want to pay attention to is low temperatures. Across the region this morning, it is pretty chilly with lows in the low to mid 30s like we're seeing here for tomorrow morning. And some areas have some frost. I have some frost here at my house in Federal Way, and that's going to continue over the next week or so with frost in the mornings and some chilly overnight lows. You can see tomorrow morning, so Tuesday morning here, we're looking at lows in the low to mid 30s across the lowlands here. Coast likely in the mid 30s. As we go into Wednesday, you can see a similar trend, low to mid 30s across the region. A few areas maybe closer to the foothills and outlying of the metro areas could reach the upper 20s. As we go to Thursday, we stay in the low to mid 30s. But then by Friday, you can see these lows take a big drop. Take a look at some of the mountains down into the 20s to teens there. And you can see Western Washington back to the low 30s again. But some places, especially Olympia southward and some of these outlying locations, drop into the upper 20s. But take a look at this as we go into the weekend. Saturday morning lows, looking at the low 30s for some of the metro areas, but anywhere outside of Seattle, there looks to be in the upper 20s. You can see some places like Arlington and Bellingham areas down into the low to the mid 20s there, and then places like Snoqualmie Pass, Leavenworth in the mid-teens. And now take a look at Sunday. We get even colder. Seattle dropping into the upper 20s. Areas outside of Seattle in the low to mid 20s. You can see Arlington down to 24, and most areas like Tacoma 25, Olympia 25. So we're going to have some pretty chilly temperatures, especially Sunday morning, it looks like here. You can see places like Snoqualmie Pass down to 12 degrees, and Leavenworth will be similar in the upper single digits there, 9 degrees at Stevens Pass. So it's going to be noticeably chilly, especially Sunday morning there. You can see that continues on Monday there with lows again in the low to mid 20s outside of the metro area. Seattle, they're in the upper 20s there, about 28 degrees. And some places near the water, even on the coast, you're going to be in the low 30s. San Juan's in the upper 20s to low 30s. Same on Whidbey Island and Camino Island there. And then as we go to next Tuesday, that does start to moderate a little bit with lows ticking up a tiny bit into the mid-20s to low 30s across western Washington, and then warming up further as we get back into next Wednesday there, but still below freezing for most of western Washington. So now let's take a look here at precipitation. You can see this is all the way through Saturday night, and the highest precipitation amount is at almost a half inch here by the Olympics, and some heavier showers possible, but take that with a grain of salt. Most of western Washington receiving a few hundredths of an inch of rain, and that continues when you look at the snow forecast here. Highest amount near Mount Rainier, about 3 inches, and the rest of the region, Snoqualmie, Stevens, and White Passes get up to a half inch of snow. So very, very little precipitation falling here. So one thing that we are going to have to pay attention to with this ridge, I'm going to let this load here, this is the air quality map. And if we zoom in here to the metro area, you can see the air quality is already becoming a little bit stagnant. Take a look around Tacoma there. You're seeing some moderate air quality around Tacoma and Olympia and parts of Seattle. Some outlying areas are still quite good. However, wind is not going to be very strong at all over the next week or so. And with just continuous chilly mornings, which means you got wood smoke and stuff like that going into the atmosphere, and very little wind, that air is going to become quite stagnant, probably going to become hazy. So you're going to notice that over the next week or so. We will keep looking at this air quality information, because once you start to get to values like what you're seeing around Tacoma here in the 65 to 85 range, that does start to become problematic for some people, and if we start to see that widespread, that won't be too good. So we'll keep looking at the air quality over the next few days here. And then I want to take a look at this. This was issued yesterday. This is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook for January 18th to 22nd. So this would be from this upcoming weekend into the middle of next week. And you can see a good probability for below average temperatures for basically the entirety of the United States except Alaska and Hawaii. Obviously a big signal here with that polar lobe moving into the Great Plains that I was talking about earlier. That brings some very much below average temperatures for most of the midsection of the country. Here in western Washington, you can see we will have a decent probability, at least 60% chance of below average temperatures. That increases in eastern Washington there. And taking a look at the precipitation outlook, you can see a very strong signal here for much below average precipitation, and that is corresponding with what we see in those precipitation maps of only a few hundredths of an inch of rain and a half inch of snow. Unusual for January, and you can see that that is denoted here in the precipitation outlook. So as always, I updated this graphic here so you can see my updated social media. Here you can subscribe here on Western Washington Weather. We are just over 100 subscribers away from reaching 1,000, which is going to be a big milestone for me. So please subscribe so we can make that happen. You can follow me on Twitter and on Blue Sky. I'm up to 1,600 followers on Blue Sky, so thank you all for following me on there. And of course, you can join the Western Washington Weather Facebook group here. We passed 1,000 members during our last windstorm at the end of 2024, and I would love to see this continue to grow this year. So all the links to these will be in the description below, and be sure to like, subscribe, and share these videos and ring that notification bell. Thank you all for watching Western Washington Weather, and I will talk to you all later.